She had nothing left but a worn blanket and a can of soup when she found a small child abandoned in the winter storm. The little girl was burning with fever, her designer coat doing nothing against the cold. What this struggling waitress didn't know was that the child belonged to the city's most feared figure, and her simple act of kindness was about to pull her into a world where mercy was weakness and debt was paid in blood. The radiator in Jenna's apartment had stopped working 2 days ago. She called the landlord 4 times. He never answered. Now she sat on her mattress on the floor, wrapped in the only blanket she owned, eating soup straight from the can because the gas had been shut off last week. Her waitress uniform hung over the single chair, still damp from the rain. Tomorrow she'd wear it wet. No choice. The diner didn't care about excuses. Show up or get replaced. That was the deal. Her phone showed $3 in her bank account. Rent was due in 5 days. She owed $470. The math didn't work. It never worked. But Jenna had survived worse. After her parents died in the accident 3 years ago, she'd learned that survival wasn't about winning. It was about lasting one more day. The storm outside sounded like the building might collapse. Wind screamed against the windows. Snow piled against the glass so thick she couldn't see the street below. The weather report said it was the worst blizzard in 20 years. -15 degrees. Deadly cold. Jenna pulled the blanket tighter and tried to sleep. That's when she heard it. A sound so small she almost missed it. Crying. A child crying. She sat up, listening hard. There it was again. Faint, but real. Coming from the alley behind her building. Every logical thought told her to ignore it, to stay inside where it was barely warm enough to survive. Going out there was stupid, dangerous, but Jenna was already moving. She pulled on her wet uniform, her thin jacket, the boots with the hole in the sole. She grabbed her blanket because it was the only warm thing she owned and headed for the door. The cold hit her like a fist. The wind tore through her jacket instantly. Snow blinded her. She could barely see 3 feet ahead. The crying was louder now, more desperate. Jenna followed the sound into the alley, stumbling over trash cans and ice. Behind a dumpster, curled into a ball, was a little girl. Maybe 5 years old. Her coat was expensive. Even Jenna could tell that. Black wool with silver buttons. Designer. But she wasn't wearing shoes. Her feet were bare and blue with cold. Her blonde hair was soaked. Her lips were turning purple. Jenna dropped to her knees. Hey, sweetie, can you hear me? The girl's eyes opened. They were glassy with fever. Her whole body shook. She tried to speak but only managed a whimper. Jenna touched her forehead. Burning hot. This child was seriously sick. Hypothermic and feverish at the same time. That combination could kill. She looked around the empty alley. No one. How did a little girl in an expensive coat end up barefoot in a blizzard? Where were her parents? None of it made sense. But sense didn't matter. This child needed help now. Jenna unwrapped her blanket. The cold immediately cut deeper. But she wrapped the girl in it, bundling her tight. Then she lifted her. The child was so light it scared her. Jenna held her close and ran back to her apartment as fast as the ice would allow. Inside, she laid the girl on the mattress. The child's breathing was shallow. Her shaking had gotten worse. Jenna's hands trembled as she checked for injuries. No blood. No obvious wounds. Just the fever and the cold. She needed to call someone, an ambulance, the police. But her phone was almost dead and she had no money for the bill. Besides, something felt wrong about this. A child this young, dressed that well, abandoned in a storm. This wasn't an accident. Someone had done this on purpose. The girl's eyes opened again. She stared at Jenna with confused terror. "You're safe," Jenna whispered. "I've got you. You're going to be okay." The The girl's small hand gripped Jenna's finger. That grip was surprisingly strong, desperate, like she was holding on to the only solid thing in the world. Jenna spent the next hour trying to warm her. She rubbed the girl's feet gently, careful not to cause more damage. She gave her tiny sips of water. She hummed softly, the way her mother used to when Jenna was sick as a child. The blanket was wrapped around them both now. Jenna's own body heat was all she had to offer. Slowly, the girl's breathing steadied. The shaking eased. Her eyes closed and she fell into a fitful sleep. Jenna didn't sleep. She stayed awake watching this stranger's child, wondering what kind of person abandons a little girl to freeze to death, wondering what she'd gotten herself into. The knock came at dawn, 3 sharp raps that sounded like authority. Jenna's heart jumped into her throat. She carefully moved away from the sleeping girl and went to the door. Through the peephole, she saw 2 men in black suits. They looked expensive, dangerous. Everything about them screamed wrong. "Yes?" she called through the door. "We're looking for someone." The voice was deep and cold. "A child. Blonde, 5 years old. We have reason to believe she's in this building." Jenna's blood ran cold. These men weren't police. They weren't paramedics. They were something else. Something that made her instincts scream danger. "I haven't seen any child," she lied. Silence. Then another voice spoke, different from the first, quieter but somehow more frightening. "Open the door." It wasn't a request. It was a command. The kind of command that suggested terrible things happen to people who refused. Jenna looked back at the little girl still sleeping on her mattress, still wrapped in the blanket that was probably going to get them both killed. She thought about opening the door, handing her over, saving herself. It would be the smart move, the safe move. Instead, she called through the door, "I'm calling the police." "No, you're not." The quiet voice again. "Because you're smart enough to know something's not right here. Smart enough to protect that child even though you don't know who she is. Smart enough to recognize that we're not the ones who put her in that alley." Jenna's hand froze on her phone. "What?" "Open the door, please, before someone else finds her." Against every survival instinct, Jenna unlocked the door. The 2 men stepped inside. They were both huge. Both carried themselves like violence was a language they spoke fluently. But their eyes went immediately to the girl on the mattress, and something in their expression softened. "Is she alive?" the quiet one asked. "Yes. She has a fever. She was hypothermic when I found her." The man moved past Jenna and knelt beside the girl. His hand touched her forehead with surprising gentleness. "Ginny," he whispered. "We've got you now." "Ginny." The child had a name. The other man was on his phone. "Tell him we found her. The apartment on 5th. Yes, she's alive." He paused, listening. "There's a woman. She pulled Ginny out of the alley. Saved her life." Jenna's stomach dropped. "Who are you telling? Who's coming?" The quiet man stood and looked at her. Really looked at her, taking in her wet uniform, her threadbare jacket, the apartment with no heat and no furniture. "You gave her your blanket. She was freezing. That's the only blanket in this apartment." Jenna didn't answer. What could she say? "Yes, I gave a dying child my only source of warmth because I'm either incredibly kind or incredibly stupid. And I'm not sure which." "What's your name?" the man asked. "Jenna." "Jenna, my name is Marcus, and you just saved the life of the most important person in a very dangerous man's world." He paused. "He's coming here, and I need you to understand something. When he arrives, don't run, don't lie. Just tell him the truth about what you did." "Why would I run?" "Because when Zion Cole walks through that door, your first instinct will be to run." The name hit Jenna like ice water. Zion Cole. She'd heard that name. Everyone in this city had heard that name. He owned half the businesses downtown. The police didn't touch him. Politicians feared him. He was the kind of powerful that made people disappear. "He's Ginny's father," Jenna said. It wasn't a question. "Yes." "Someone took her. Left her to die." "Yes." "He's going to kill whoever did it." Marcus met her eyes. Without question. 20 minutes later, the door opened again. Jenna was sitting on the floor next to Ginny, who was still sleeping but breathing easier now. Marcus and his partner stood like guards. When Zion Cole entered, the temperature in the room seemed to drop. He was younger than Jenna expected. Maybe 35. Dark hair, sharp suit, eyes that looked like they could see through walls. But what struck her most was the expression on his face when he saw Ginny. Raw, desperate relief mixed with rage so profound it was terrifying. He crossed the room in 3 steps and dropped to his knees beside his daughter. His hands shook as he touched her face. "Ginny, baby, can you hear me?" Ginny's eyes fluttered open. "Daddy, I'm here. You're safe now. I was so cold." Her voice was barely a whisper. "I know. I know." He pulled her into his arms, blanket and all, holding her like she might vanish. Over her head, his eyes found Jenna. The rage was still there, but there was something else now. Something Jenna couldn't name. "You found her," he said. "She was in the alley, behind the building. No shoes, burning with fever." "You brought her here?" "Yes." "You gave her your blanket?" Jenna nodded. Zion stood, still cradling Ginny. He looked around the apartment again, at the broken radiator, the empty fridge, the mattress on the floor. His jaw tightened. "Marcus, get a doctor here now, and bring the car around." Then to Jenna, "Come with me." "Where?" "My home. You're not staying here." "I have work tomorrow." "No, you don't." His tone left no room for argument. "You saved my daughter's life. That debt doesn't get paid with a thank you and goodbye. You're coming with me." Fear spiked through Jenna. "I'm not going anywhere. I don't know you. You know I'm dangerous. You know I have resources. You know my daughter was left to die, and I'm going to burn this city down to find who did it." Zion's eyes were hard. "But you also know I'm not going to hurt the woman who saved her. So stop arguing and pack whatever you want to keep." Jenna's mind raced. She could refuse, could demand they leave. But Ginny was looking at her now with those fever-bright eyes, and she was holding out her small hand toward Jenna like she wanted her to come, like she needed her to come. "5 minutes," Jenna heard herself say. "I need 5 minutes." She had one bag. It took 3 minutes to pack her entire life, clothes, a photo of her parents, her mother's necklace. That was it. Everything else was garbage or belonged to the landlord. The car waiting outside was exactly what she expected. Black, expensive bulletproof windows. Ginny was already inside, wrapped in a new blanket with a doctor examining her. Jenna climbed in and the door closed behind her with a solid, final sound. Zion sat across from her. Between them, Ginny had fallen asleep again, her hand tangled in the doctor's stethoscope. "She'll be fine," the doctor said. "The fever's already dropping. Another hour in that cold and we'd be having a different conversation." Zion's jaw clenched. He looked at Jenna. "Tell me exactly what happened. Everything." So she did. The crying in the alley, finding Ginny behind the dumpster, the expensive coat and bare feet, the hours keeping her warm, the men at her door. "You thought my men might be the ones who hurt her," Zion said. "Yes. But you protected her anyway." "She was a child. I wasn't going to hand her over to people who might hurt her more." Something shifted in Zion's expression. Respect, maybe, or surprise. "Most people in this city know better than to lie to my men." "I don't know anything about your city or your men. I just know what was right." The car pulled through iron gates into a property that looked like it belonged in magazines. The house was massive, 3 stories of stone and glass, gardens even in winter, security cameras everywhere, staff waiting at the entrance. Ginny woke as they stopped. She looked around confused, then saw Zion and relaxed. Home? Home, baby. But she was looking at Jenna now. Her small voice asked, "Is she coming too?" Zion's eyes met Jenna's. "Yes, she's coming too." The room they gave Jenna was bigger than her entire apartment. A real bed with clean sheets, a bathroom with hot water that actually worked, clothes laid out that looked like they'd fit her perfectly. Everything was too much, too nice, too overwhelming. She stood in front of the window looking out at the grounds and tried to understand what had just happened to her life. This morning she was facing eviction. Now she was in a mansion, wearing clothes that probably cost more than she made in a month because she'd given a blanket to a child. A knock at the door. A woman entered. Late 40s, kind face, efficient movements. "I'm Grace. I run the house. Mr. Cole asked me to make sure you have everything you need." "I don't need anything." Grace smiled slightly. "He said you'd say that. But you do need food. You're too thin. And sleep. The doctor said you stayed awake all night with Ginny. Is she okay?" "She's resting. The fever's almost gone. You saved her life." Grace's expression was serious now. "That matters here. More than you know." "I didn't do anything special. Anyone would have." "No, they wouldn't." Grace moved to the door. "Dinner's in an hour. Mr. Cole would like you to join them. But if you're too tired, I can bring something up." Jenna wanted to hide in this room forever. But she also wanted to see Ginny, make sure she was really okay. "I'll come down." Dinner was in a dining room that could seat 20, but it was just the 3 of them. Zion at the head of the table, Ginny next to him in a chair with extra cushions, Jenna across from them, feeling completely out of place. Ginny looked better. The color had returned to her cheeks. She was wearing pajamas with stars on them and eating soup carefully. "You like stars?" Jenna asked. Ginny nodded. "Mommy said she'd be in the stars, watching me." The silence that followed was heavy. Zion's expression went hard and closed. Jenna understood. Ginny's mother was dead. This child had already lost so much. "I think your mommy's right," Jenna said softly. "And I bet she's really proud of you. You were so brave last night." "I was scared." "Being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means being scared and still holding on." Ginny considered this seriously. Then she looked at her father. "Did you find the bad man?" Zion's hand tightened on his fork. "Not yet. But I will. He said you'd never find me. He said I'd freeze and you'd be too late." Ginny's voice was matter of fact, like she was reporting the weather. But Jenna saw the tears starting in her eyes. Zion left his chair and knelt beside his daughter. "I will always find you. Always. No matter what. Do you understand?" Ginny nodded, but the tears fell anyway. Zion pulled her close. Over her head, his eyes met Jenna's. The rage in them was controlled now. Focused. Whoever had taken Ginny, their time was running out. After dinner, Ginny asked if Jenna would stay with her until she fell asleep. Zion nodded permission. So Jenna found herself in a princess bedroom, sitting on the edge of a canopy bed while a 5-year-old girl tried to be brave. "Do you have a mommy?" Ginny asked. "I did. She died when I was older than you. Her and my daddy both." "Does it stop hurting?" The question broke Jenna's heart. "No, sweetie, it doesn't stop. But it gets different. Less sharp. And you learn to carry it." "I don't know how to carry it." "You're already doing it. Every day you get up and keep going, you're carrying it." Ginny was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Will you stay here? With me and Daddy?" "I don't know. This isn't really my home. It could be." Ginny's eyes were already closing. "You're nice. And warm. Like Mommy was." Jenna sat there until Ginny's breathing deepened into real sleep. Then she carefully extracted herself and headed for the door. Zion was standing in the hallway, waiting. "She'll have nightmares," he said quietly. "She has them every night since her mother died. If she calls out, I'll come." "How long ago did you lose your wife?" 8 months. His voice was flat. "Car accident. Or that's what I was supposed to believe. But you don't." "I know exactly who ordered it. I just can't prove it yet." They walked together down the long hallway. Paintings on the walls, thick carpet, everything perfect and cold and nothing like a home. "Why did someone take Ginny?" Jenna asked. Zion stopped walking. "Because hurting me requires leverage. My wife is dead. My daughter is all I have left. Taking her sends a message." "What message?" "That I'm vulnerable. That my power has limits. That I can be broken." He looked at Jenna. "They were wrong. All they did was start a war they can't win." "And Ginny? She's just a weapon to you people?" "To them. Never to me." His voice was steel. "She's everything. She's the only thing that matters." "Then why build an empire that makes her a target?" The question landed hard. Zion's expression went cold. "You've been here 6 hours and you think you understand my choices? I understand that child in there is scared. That she lost her mother and almost lost her life. I understand that whatever you're doing, whatever this war is, she's the one who's going to pay for it." "You don't know what you're talking about." "Maybe not. But I know what it's like to lose everything. And I know Ginny needs more than protection. She needs someone who's actually present." Jenna met his eyes. "Can you be that? Or are you too busy being whatever this is?" Zion stepped closer. He was intimidating when he wanted to be. Tall and powerful and used to people backing down. "You're very bold for someone who has nothing." "That's exactly why I can be bold. I have nothing left to lose." For a long moment they stood there. Then Zion's expression shifted. Not softening exactly, but changing. "Stay. For Ginny. I'll pay you whatever you need. You can go back to school. Build a life. Whatever you want. Just stay and help her heal." "I'm not a therapist. I'm a waitress who pulled a kid out of the snow. You're the person she trusted, the person she wants here. That's all that matters to me." Jenna thought about her apartment, the eviction notice, the $3 in her bank account. She thought about Ginny asking her to stay, about how that little girl had already lost so much and was still trying to be brave. "1 month," she said. "I'll stay 1 month. Then we talk again." Zion nodded once. "1 month." But they both knew it was already more complicated than that. Jenna learned the rhythms of the house quickly. Ginny woke at 7. Breakfast was at 8. Mornings were spent in the playroom or the library. Afternoons in the garden when it wasn't too cold. Evenings were dinner, baths, stories, sleep. Zion tried to be present. He ate breakfast with them most mornings. Tucked Ginny in some nights. But his phone was always ringing. Men were always arriving for meetings. He'd disappear for hours into his office and come back looking harder, more distant. Ginny was healing physically. The fever was gone. Her feet had recovered. But the nightmares continued, and she was quieter than a 5-year-old should be. Like she was afraid too much noise would make bad things happen. 2 weeks in, Jenna woke to screaming. She ran to Ginny's room and found her thrashing in bed, eyes wide but unseeing. Zion was already there, trying to calm her. "Ginny, you're safe. You're home. No one's going to hurt you." But Ginny kept screaming, kept fighting, lost in whatever memory had grabbed her. Jenna moved to the other side of the bed. She started humming, the same tune she'd hummed that first night, soft and steady and familiar. Ginny's screaming stopped, her eyes focused. She saw Jenna and immediately reached for her. Jenna gathered her close, still humming. Ginny buried her face in Jenna's shoulder and cried. Zion watched them. His expression was complicated, grateful and frustrated and something else. Like he was watching his daughter connect with someone in a way she couldn't connect with him. She was asking for her mother, he said quietly. In the dream, she kept saying, "Mommy, come back." Jenna met his eyes over Ginny's head. Tell her. Tell her about her mother. What? Ginny needs to hear about her. Not the sad parts, the good parts. Tell her stories. Keep her mother alive in words. I don't know how. Yes, you do. You loved your wife. Tell Ginny how. Tell her what her mother was like, what she loved, how she laughed. Give Ginny something to hold on to besides fear. Zion looked at his daughter, still clinging to Jenna. Then he moved closer. He sat on the bed and put his hand on Ginny's back. Your mother's name was Rachel, he said. His voice was rough. She had blonde hair like yours, and she sang all the time, even when she was doing dishes or folding laundry. The house was always full of music. Ginny lifted her head slightly, listening. She loved the ocean. We took you to the beach when you were 3. You were scared of the waves at first, but your mother held your hand and walked into the water with you. She showed you it was safe. I remember, Ginny whispered. She read to you every night. The same 3 books over and over because you wouldn't let her read anything else. Zion's voice cracked. She loved you so much, Ginny, more than anything in this world. Ginny turned and wrapped her arms around her father's neck. Zion held her tight, his eyes closed, looking more vulnerable than Jenna had ever seen him. I miss her, Ginny said. I know, baby. Me too. They stayed like that for a long time. Jenna started to leave, give them privacy, but Ginny reached out and grabbed her hand. Don't go. So Jenna stayed. The 3 of them sitting in the dark room, connected by grief and hope, and something that felt almost like family. Marcus appeared in the library one afternoon while Jenna was reading to Ginny. His expression was serious. Miss Jenna, Mr. Cole needs to see you in his office. Jenna's stomach tightened. That sounded like trouble. She looked at Ginny. Will you stay here with Grace? I'll be right back. Ginny nodded, already absorbed in her coloring book. Zion's office was different from the rest of the house. Darker, more functional. The walls held maps and photos. A large desk dominated the center, and standing around that desk were 4 men who all looked like they knew how to hurt people. Jenna, Zion said. Close the door. She did, her heart hammering. What's wrong? We found him. The man who took Ginny, Thomas Brennan. He's been working for the rival family for 3 years, feeding them information. When they wanted to send a message, he volunteered to take Ginny. The name meant nothing to Jenna, but the faces of the men around the desk told her what was coming next. He's in the basement, Zion continued, and I need to know what he knows. Who else was involved? How much they planned? Every detail. Why are you telling me this? Because after I'm done with him, there won't be anything left to tell. And I need you to understand what kind of man you're living with. What happens in this house. Zion's eyes were hard. I need you to understand what I'm willing to do to protect Ginny. Jenna's mouth went dry. You're going to kill him. Yes. And you want me to be okay with that? I want you to be realistic about it. This is my world. This is what protection looks like here. Jenna looked at the men around the desk, at their cold expressions, at the weapons some of them carried. She thought about Ginny sleeping peacefully because she finally felt safe, about the nightmares that were slowly getting less frequent. I can't stop you, she said quietly. No, but I need to know if you can live with it. If you're going to stay, you need to accept who I am. What I do. Jenna met his eyes. That man left a 5-year-old child to freeze to death. Whatever you do to him, he earned it. Something flickered in Zion's expression. Surprise, maybe. Or respect. I thought you'd judge me. I'm sure I should. But all I can think about is Ginny screaming in her sleep, about how scared she was, how close she came to dying. Jenna's voice hardened. So no, I'm not going to cry for a man who did that to a child. Zion nodded slowly. Then to his men. Take him to the warehouse. I'll meet you there in an hour. The men filed out. When they were alone, Zion moved closer to Jenna. You're not what I expected. Everyone keeps saying that. Most people in your position would be trying to leave, to get away from this. Maybe I'm too stupid to be scared. Or maybe you're exactly what Ginny needs. Someone who understands that the world isn't black and white, that sometimes protection looks ugly. He paused. Thank you for staying. I didn't stay for you. I know. But I'm grateful anyway. That night, Jenna put Ginny to bed and then sat in her room trying not to think about what was happening somewhere in this city, about the questions being asked, the answers being given, the violence unfolding in the name of protection. She should feel sick. Should be packing her bag and running, but she just felt tired. Tired of pretending the world was fair. Tired of acting like justice always came through proper channels. That man had tried to kill Ginny, and now he was paying for it. That was the only truth that mattered. Around midnight, she heard a car pull up. Footsteps in the hallway. The shower running. Zion was back. She stayed in her room, giving him space. But an hour later, she heard Ginny crying again. By the time Jenna got to her room, Zion was already there. He looked exhausted, haunted. But he was holding Ginny gently, murmuring comfort. Bad dream? Jenna asked softly. She thought the bad man was back. Zion's voice was rough. I told her he's gone. He can never hurt her again. Ginny looked at Jenna over her father's shoulder. Is that true? Jenna moved closer. She brushed hair from Ginny's face. Yes, baby, that's true. Your daddy made sure of it. So I'm safe now? Zion held her tighter. You're safe. I promise. Ginny relaxed. The three of them stayed like that until she fell back asleep. Then Zion carefully laid her down and pulled the blankets up. In the hallway, he leaned against the wall and closed his eyes. I've done terrible things tonight. I know. And you're still here. I'm still here. He opened his eyes and looked at her. Why? Jenna thought about that. About all the reasons she could give. The money. The security. The comfortable room. But those weren't the real reasons. Because Ginny needs me, and because you're trying. You're not perfect. Your methods are questionable at best. But you love your daughter, and you're trying to be better for her. She paused. That counts for something. Zion moved closer. They were standing very near now. Close enough that Jenna could see the shadows under his eyes. The weight he carried. You make me want to be better, he said quietly. You and Ginny. You make me remember there's more to life than revenge and power. Then be better. Not for me. For her. For yourself. I don't know if I can. Yes, you do. You just have to choose it. His hand came up, almost touching her face, but stopping just short. What if I'm too broken? Everyone's broken. The question is what you build with the pieces. They stood there in the dim hallway, something shifting between them, something that felt dangerous and right at the same time. Then Ginny called out from her room, Daddy? Jenna, are you still there? The moment broke. Zion stepped back. We're here, baby. But as they walked back into Ginny's room together, Jenna knew something had changed. They weren't just helping a child anymore. They were becoming something. A unit. A family made from broken pieces that somehow fit together. 3 weeks became 4. Then 5. Jenna stopped thinking about leaving. The house felt like home now. Ginny was laughing more, playing without fear. The nightmares still came, but less often. She talked about her mother without crying, drew pictures of all 3 of them together. Zion was changing too. He took mornings off to have breakfast with them, played games with Ginny even when work was demanding his attention. He smiled more, laughed at Ginny's jokes, started teaching her to play chess. And he looked at Jenna differently now, like she was more than just the woman who saved his daughter. Like she was becoming essential in a way that had nothing to do with Ginny. It scared Jenna how much she was starting to care. About Ginny. About Zion. About this dangerous, complicated family she'd fallen into. One evening after Ginny was asleep, Jenna found Zion on the terrace. He was staring at the city lights, a glass of something amber in his hand. "You okay?" she asked. Thinking about the future, about what happens when this war is over, when Ginny's safe and the threats are gone. He looked at her. "What happens to us then?" "What do you mean us?" "You and me, Ginny and both of us, this thing we've built." Zion set down his glass. "I need to know if this is temporary, if you're planning to leave when the month ends." "The month ended 2 weeks ago." "I know. But you're still here." Jenna moved to the railing beside him. "Ginny needs stability. I couldn't leave while she's still healing." "Is that the only reason?" His intensity made her heart race. "What do you want me to say?" "The truth." Jenna looked at him, at this man who'd been a stranger 6 weeks ago, who'd terrified her at first, who'd shown her a world of violence and power, but who also kissed his daughter goodnight every evening, who was trying so hard to be better, who looked at Jenna like she was the answer to a question he'd been asking forever. "I care about you," she said quietly. "Both of you. More than I should. More than is smart." Zion moved closer. "Why isn't it smart?" "Because you're dangerous. Because your world destroys people. Because staying means accepting things I never thought I'd accept." "But you're staying anyway." "Yes." "Why?" Jenna met his eyes. "Because somewhere in the last 6 weeks, this stopped being about money or obligation. Because Ginny asks me every night if I'll be here in the morning. Because you look at me like I matter. Like I'm more than just someone passing through." Zion's hand came up, finally touching her face. His thumb traced her cheekbone. "You do matter. More than you know. This is complicated. Everything worth having is complicated." They stood there, the city spreading below them, the moment suspended between possibility and fear. Then Zion leaned in and kissed her, gentle at first, then deeper, like he'd been holding back for weeks and couldn't anymore. Jenna kissed him back. She shouldn't. This was her employer. A dangerous man. Someone from a world she didn't belong in. But none of that mattered because his hands were gentle and desperate at the same time, because he was holding her like she was precious. Because for the first time in years, she felt like she'd found a place she belonged. When they finally pulled apart, Zion rested his forehead against hers. "Tell me you'll stay. Not for Ginny. For us. Tell me this is real." "It's real," Jenna whispered. "It's terrifying and real." "I can work with that." The next morning, Ginny bounced into breakfast with a huge smile. "Guess what? Grace said we can make cookies today. Can Jenna help? Please?" Zion looked at Jenna across the table, something warm and new in his expression. "I think Jenna can help with anything she wants." They spent the afternoon covered in flour, laughing at Ginny's attempts to shape dough into stars. Zion joined them, his expensive shirt getting ruined, his usual serious expression replaced by something lighter. "You're terrible at this," Jenna teased as his third cookie fell apart. "I'm used to things that don't require delicate touch." "That's obvious," Ginny giggled. "Daddy breaks everything. Mommy used to say he had hands made for holding guns, not cookies." The mention of Ginny's mother hung in the air for a moment. Then Zion smiled sadly. "She was right. I was never good at the gentle things. She tried to teach me. I should have paid more attention." Ginny climbed into his lap, leaving flowery handprints on his shirt. It's okay, Daddy. Jenna can teach you now. Zion's eyes met Jenna's. Yeah, maybe she can. That night after Ginny was asleep, Zion asked Jenna to come to his office. She found him at his desk, looking at documents she couldn't read from the doorway. Sit, he said. Please. She sat in the chair across from him, nervous without knowing why. I need to tell you something, Zion began. The family that ordered the hit on Rachel, the ones who took Ginny, they know about you now. Jenna's blood went cold. What do you mean they know about me? They have people watching. They've seen you with Ginny, seen you with me. They know you matter. He paused. That makes you a target. So what are you saying? That I should leave? No. I'm saying I'm ending this. The war. The back and forth. I'm going to finish it permanently. Zion's expression was hard. But I need you to understand what that means. I'm going to do things that can't be undone. Cross lines I haven't crossed before. And when it's over, there will be no going back to anything resembling legitimate business. Jenna leaned forward. You're going to destroy them. Completely. And then what? You keep building this empire? Keep making enemies? Keep putting Ginny at risk? No. Zion stood and moved around the desk. When this is done, I'm getting out. Not completely. I'll always have connections, always have resources, but the violence, the territory wars, the constant threat, I'm done with it. For Ginny. For you. For the life I want us to have. You can just walk away? With enough planning and the right leverage, yes. I've been building an exit strategy for months, since before Rachel died. She wanted out. I promised her I'd find a way. His voice cracked slightly. I just didn't move fast enough, but I won't make that mistake again. Jenna stood too. What do you need from me? I need you to trust me, to stay safe while I handle this, to take care of Ginny and not ask too many questions about what I'm doing. That's a lot of trust. I know, but I'm asking anyway. Zion moved closer. Because when this is over, I want a real life. A normal life. I want Ginny to grow up without fear. I want to take you both somewhere safe. Build something that isn't covered in blood and regret. You really think you can do that? I have to, because the alternative is watching everyone I love get destroyed. He pulled her close. I can't lose anyone else. I won't. Jenna wrapped her arms around him. She could feel his heart beating too fast, could feel the tension in his shoulders. This man who terrified everyone else was terrified himself. Not of his enemies, but of failing the people he loved. Okay, she said. I trust you. Do what you have to do. The next 2 weeks were tense. Zion was gone more than he was home. When he was there, he was distracted. Phone calls at all hours, men coming and going. Marcus and the others looked grim and focused. Ginny felt the tension too. She was clingier, asked more questions about where her father was going, had more nightmares. Jenna did her best to keep things normal. They baked, read stories, played in the garden when the weather allowed. But she could feel the storm building. Then one night, Zion came home covered in blood. Not his blood, someone else's. He walked straight through the house to his room. Jenna followed. Zion. He turned. His eyes were hollow. It's done. They're finished. All of them. How many? Does it matter? Yes. He looked at her for a long moment. 12. 12 men who would have killed Ginny without hesitation, who ordered Rachel's death, who've been trying to destroy everything I've built. His voice was flat, empty. Now they're dead, and their organization is gone. Jenna should have been horrified, should have run, but all she felt was relief. These people couldn't hurt Ginny anymore, couldn't hurt Zion, couldn't hurt her. Take a shower, she said. I'll wait. Zion nodded and disappeared into his bathroom. Jenna sat on his bed and waited. When he emerged 20 minutes later, he was clean, but still looked haunted. Come here, she said. He came to her. She pulled him down beside her and held him. He was shaking. This powerful, dangerous man was shaking like a child. I promised Rachel I'd stop, he whispered. Promised I'd find another way. But I couldn't. I had to become the monster they thought I was to protect what matters. You're not a monster. I killed 12 people tonight. What does that make me? A father. Someone who protected his child. Someone who ended a threat that would never stop otherwise. Jenna pulled back to look at him. You did what you had to do, and now it's over. You can be done. Can I? Or is this who I am now? You're whoever you choose to be. Starting tomorrow. Starting right now. You choose. Zion closed his eyes. I choose you. Both of you. I choose the life Rachel wanted. The life Ginny deserves. I choose to be better. Then be better. Starting now. They sat together in the dark room, holding each other while the weight of the night settled around them. Outside, the city continued. Unaware that a war had ended. That a family was choosing a different path. That blood had been spilled so love could survive. The next morning, Zion was at breakfast. Really at breakfast. Not distracted. Not checking his phone. Present. Daddy, you're here, Ginny said, surprised. I'm here, and I'm going to be here a lot more from now on. Really? Really? In fact, I was thinking we could go somewhere. Just the three of us. A vacation. Somewhere with a beach. Somewhere warm. Ginny's eyes went huge. The ocean? Like where Mommy took me. Exactly like that. Ginny looked at Jenna. Will you come? Jenna looked at Zion. He was watching her with hope and fear mixed together. Asking without words if she was really in this. If she was choosing them the way he was. Choosing her. Yes, Jenna said. I'll come. Ginny cheered. Zion smiled. A real smile. Warm and young and nothing like the cold, dangerous man who'd walked through his door covered in blood 12 hours ago. They spent that day planning. Looking at beach houses online. Talking about building sandcastles and learning to swim. Ginny was more animated than Jenna had ever seen her, and Zion looked lighter, like a weight had been lifted. That night, after Ginny was asleep, Zion found Jenna in her room. Can I come in? Yes. He closed the door behind him. They stood looking at each other for a moment. Then Zion said, I meant what I said. About getting out. About building a different life. I've already started transferring assets. Selling properties. Cutting ties with the dangerous parts of my business. How long will it take? 6 months. Maybe a year. But then we're free. We can go anywhere. Be anyone. Start completely over. And Ginny? She'll be okay with leaving everything she knows? As long as she has people she loves, she'll be okay. Kids are resilient like that. He moved closer. The question is, will you be okay? Building a life with a man who has the kind of past I have? Raising a child who's not yours? Leaving behind whatever future you'd imagined for yourself? Jenna thought about the future she'd imagined. College. A decent job. Maybe marriage someday? A normal, predictable life. She thought about how small that future looked now, how empty compared to what was being offered. I never wanted normal, she said. I wanted to matter, to belong somewhere, to love people who loved me back. She reached for his hand. I found that here, with you and Ginny. So yes, I'll be okay. Better than okay. Zion pulled her close and kissed her. Deep and sure and full of promise. When they pulled apart, he rested his forehead against hers. I love you. I should have said it before. But I love you. and I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret choosing us." "I love you too," Jenna whispered. "Both of you." They stood together in the quiet room, holding each other while the future spread out before them. Uncertain, but full of possibility. Complicated, but worth it. 6 months later, Jenna stood on a beach watching Ginny run through the waves. The little girl was laughing, fearless, her blonde hair flying in the wind. Behind Jenna, Zion wrapped his arms around her waist. "She's happy," he said. "Yeah, she is." "So am I." Jenna turned in his arms. "Me too." They'd moved to a small coastal town where no one knew Zion's name or his past. He was just another father at the playground, another husband buying groceries, another neighbor at community barbecues. Normal in ways that had seemed impossible a year ago. The nightmares had stopped. Ginny talked about her mother with love instead of pain. She'd started school and made friends. She called Jenna Mama now. Just started doing it one day like it was the most natural thing in this world. "I was thinking," Zion said, "about making it official. Us. Would you want to get married?" Jenna's heart jumped. "Are you asking?" "I'm asking." She looked at this man who'd been a stranger, who'd terrified her, who'd shown her a world she never knew existed, who'd changed everything about his life because love mattered more than power. "Yes, I want to get married." Zion smiled and kissed her. On the beach, Ginny saw them and came running. "Are you kissing? That's gross." They both laughed. Zion scooped Ginny up and spun her around. She shrieked with delight. Jenna watched them together and felt her chest expand with something too big for words. This was her family, built from a freezing night and a single act of kindness, from broken pieces that somehow fit together, from choosing love over safety, from giving away her only blanket to a shivering child. She'd had nothing. Now she had everything. Later that evening, after Ginny was asleep in her new room with the ocean painted on the walls, Jenna and Zion sat on their porch watching the waves. Zion held her hand, thumb tracing circles on her palm. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked. "Giving up your old life? Taking a chance on us?" Jenna thought about the scared girl who'd lived in a broken apartment, who'd had $3 and no hope, who'd found a child in an alley and made a choice that changed everything. "Not for a second," she said. "That night in the alley, I thought I was just helping a lost kid. I didn't know I was finding my way home." Zion pulled her closer. "I was lost too. Rachel's death broke something in me. I thought I'd never feel whole again. Then you showed up with your cheap blanket and your fierce heart. You saved Ginny, but you saved me too." They sat together as darkness fell. The ocean whispered against the shore. Inside, their daughter slept peacefully. Tomorrow they'd build sand castles and collect shells and live the normal life they'd fought so hard to create. Sometimes the best families aren't born. They're chosen. Built from impossible circumstances and fierce love. From strangers who become everything. From a single moment of kindness that ripples outward, changing lives in ways no one could predict. Jenna had given away her only blanket. In return, she'd received a daughter, a husband, a future worth living. Sometimes that's how miracles work. You give what little you have, and somehow, impossibly, you end up with more than you ever dreamed possible.